Welcome to this LeeDanielsART tutorial about animating 2D faces in AfterEffects. I'm going to try and keep these tutorials short. They're more of a general overview, so if I skip over anything, feel free to message me through the channel and I'll do my best to answer any questions. Let's jump straight into Photoshop. Here's a character I made for my animated short Catch. As you can see, every element intended for animation has been assigned a separate layer. So if I just turn all of these off, you can see from the bottom we've got the eye whites, the eyeballs, each of the eyelids, a head layer, the eyebrows, teeth, lips, beard and nose. So if I just move a few of these elements around, you'll be able to see how they're going to move during the animation in AfterEffects. So the eyelids, the eyeballs, the eye whites, they're all happening behind the head layer, which is basically just a mask with two holes cut out. Everything else is on front, such as the eyebrows and the beard and the lips. So now it's time to save the file. So we'll go to File, Save As. Call this 2D Face. Make sure the Layers tab is activated and it's a Photoshop document and hit Save. Maximize compatibility and click OK. And we go over into AfterEffects, hit in the project window there, File, Import File, select the file, and we need the Import As to be Composition Retain Layer Sizes. Hit Open and click OK. And here we go. So when we open up the comp, you'll see that you have all of the layers in exactly the same position as you did in Photoshop. And because we selected retain layer sizes, the boundary handles and the selection points for each layer are constrained to the size of the layer, which makes it much easier to move things around when we start to animate. The first thing to do in AfterEffects is to set the anchor points for each of the layers that we're going to be animating. I'm just going to set the render quality to full so we can see what we're doing here. And I'm just going to drag this window out so we have a bit more room. So I'm going to go down the layers one by one. And using the tool here, which is the pan behind tool, you select that, it lets you move around the anchor points there. We don't need to do it for the nose because it's not going to be moving. So ignore the nose, ignore the beard for now. For the lip, I'm going to move the anchor point to the bottom. And this is because we can then use the scale or the position when we start to move it. The teeth, they're going to stay where they are. For the eyebrows, I'm going to set the anchor point to the center of each eyebrow so we can rotate around it. For the head layer, I'm just going to move the anchor point down to roughly where the neck would be meeting the head. And then for each of the eyelids, I'm going to move the anchor point to the top of the top eyelids and to the bottom of the lower eyelids. And again, this just gives it the ability to either use position keyframing to slide them up and down, or we can use the scale to get a few more effects there. Eyeballs are both fine. The anchor point's already set in the middle because they're quite small, and the eye whites we're going to leave too. So the next thing we need to do is just to parent all of those elements to the head layer. So if we select all of them using the Shift key, and then using the pickwick tool from any layer that isn't a head layer, we just drag them across like that. And now if we move the head, all the other elements will follow. So now we can start to set some keyframes. So I'm going to select the lip tool, hit the S key, hold down Shift and hit the P key to bring up the position and scale transform controls and set keyframes for both of those. And then for the eyebrows and the head, I want to set position and rotation keyframes for all of them. So I'm just going to Shift click all of those, hit the P, hold down Shift and hit the R, which brings up position and rotation transforms, and hit keyframes for all of those. One quick way to make an instant keyframe for a specific control, if I just Shift click all of the eyelids here, we want to make a position keyframe for all of them, we can just hold down the Alt key and press P. And not only does it bring up the position controls, but it also instantly puts a keyframe in there for you. And we'll just do the same for the eyeballs, hold down the Alt key and press P. Now the last thing we're going to do for this initial setup is to use the puppet tool to set some controls for the beard. So if we select the beard and then select the puppet pin tool up the top here, I'm going to set a anchor pin tool for the center of the lip, one for each side, one for the chin, and one for these two corners here. If we go over to the beard and just hit U, it'll bring up all of the keyframes that have been automatically made there, relevant to each one of those pins. Okay, now we can start to animate. So what I'm going to do, just to give a bit more room, I'm going to increase the size of the window here. And there should be just enough space, but if not, you can go through all of the layers that you're not going to be using and hit the Shy tab on the top of the layer. And then when you hit this button here, all of the layers for which that's selected will disappear, which just leaves us the layers we're working with. Okay, so now we can start to get things moving. If we just take the time indicator and move it forward about half a second, and then drag down on all the diamond-shaped buttons on the left-hand side, which will duplicate the original keyframes that we made, and that just gives us a bit of a buffer zone where nothing's happening. If we move forward a couple of frames again, we can start to move a few elements, and then this will automatically set the keyframes for each of those layers. So we just select the lip, I'll just move that down slightly, and maybe stretch a little too. And then let's take the eyelids and widen them out. So a bit of a shock look. And then for the beard, if we just select the puppet handles, you can now just start to play around with these and get some different expressions. And because we've moved the timeline to a new position, each time we move one of these, the keyframes are automatically placed. So there we go. If we just flip between, you'll see the animation steps, and the tweening is all working automatically. Okay, now just move the eyeballs over a touch down to the lower, as if he's looking down, and then maybe we'll just move the head over slightly and lift it up there. Okay, now once you're happy with the expression in a particular point, I usually move forward a few steps, and the same again, just drag down all the diamond shapes, and it gives you a duplication and an area where nothing's happening. So if you're doing a cartoon or an animation with lots of expressions in between, I usually like to go through a comp like this first and just set a few different expressions up. And then using this double step technique, you can just grab that expression, you can move it to anywhere in the comp and slide them around or duplicate them if you need to use them again or something similar. Okay, I'll just do one more expression by way of example just to finish off. So we'll move the time indicator along again, and then maybe just shift the head down to the other side. Have a play around with the eyeballs again, shift them up to the top corner. And then we'll just move the eyebrows, and then maybe this time just put a bit more of a worried look on the face. He's looking up there. Okay, happy with that. Drag down all the keyframes, and then move along, drag down all the keyframes again. So now I have 3 different expressions in 3 blocks. We've got the resting pose, got the second expression, and the third expression. And what I meant earlier by making sure you have a gap where nothing's happening, surrounded by 2 sets of keyframes. If we select this block here and move it across, it's just a very easy way to move expressions around without getting all your keyframes complicated and mixed up. Okay, one last thing we can do is just select all of the keyframes and then hold down Control or right click on any of those keyframes. Choose Keyframe Assistant and Easy Ease. And what this will do is just smooth out the animation in between those frames. So what I'm going to do now is just move all the keyframes up a little bit just to speed up the transition. And then I'm going to select the initial row from that resting face and just slide it to the end there. Move the comp indicator in slightly and just do a RAM preview, and you'll see the face animating between those poses. Here are a few more examples of that same technique applied to 2D characters in After Effects. Right, that's the end of this tutorial. Please subscribe to my LeeDanielsART YouTube channel where you'll find examples of some of my animated shorts, client work and news about upcoming tutorials. Thanks for watching.